Regardless of whether or not you believe that men landed on the moon, the one thing that we can all agree on is that the truth is up there on the surface. If the Apollo astronauts truly landed on the moon, there would be plenty of artifacts left behind, such as the Lunar rover, the S-band television dishes, laser reflectors, the American flags, and of course, the Lunar lander's descent stage, which acted as the launch pad for the ascent module.
Right away, Houston. Vector good. Ag side.
Likewise, if no one ever landed there, we shouldn't expect to see any of these items up there. In the years following Apollo 17, there have been many unmanned missions to the moon, but none have succeeded in photographing the Apollo relics. But that didn't stop the propagandists from hyping about the probe's photographic abilities prior to their launches. After Fox's Moonhoax special aired in 2001, it was hyped that the Japanese spacecraft SELENE would be able to photograph close-range, high-resolution pictures of the landing site and to prove that Apollo landed on the moon.
In 2 years, Japan will send an orbiter to take close-up photos of the moon's surface. What will they find?
Propagandist Red Zero had an entire webpage about it.
The SELENE project is a Japanese space mission that will place an orbiter around the moon in the year 2005. Part of the tasks it will complete is a mapping of the moon's surface at a resolution that should make it possible to see the Apollo landing sites. This will be proof positive indeed. Unfortunately, it won't put an end to the hoax theories. That we can guarantee. Here's what the theories will be in a couple of years' time. Yes, they're that predictable. The Japanese have been paid off by NASA to fake their photos. Well, we all know they're shifty foreigners with no morals, don't we? They'll do anything for the mighty dollar. NASA sneaked fake landers up there during the last 5 years in preparation for the Japanese photos. Don't bother asking about where the money came from to do this, or how they managed it all in total secrecy. What we can see aren't the Apollo sites, but alien bases that NASA are pretending are theirs. And if you join up all the dots on the photos, it spells out a Masonic chant in ancient Greek. The thing about the hoax theories is they are based on either blind faith or ruthless capitalist marketing. Facts make no difference to either.
But, despite all the tough talk, no sooner did the probe finally leave the launch pad in 2007, Robert Brainig admitted that while it could photograph the landing sites, its resolution won't make out any artifacts. And so there you have it. All the tough talk about SELENE finding the Apollo landers was nothing but overblown hype and exaggerated claims. But is SELENE's inability to see the artifacts the God's honest truth? With a resolution of 10 meters per pixel, the smallest object the camera can resolve is 10 meters wide. With its legs spread out, the lunar module's descent stage is 9 meters wide, just under SELENE's resolving capabilities. The lens would appear out of focus, but nonetheless, it should be partially visible. And even if the artifacts were too small, they would still cast shadows. As any early riser would know, during the early hours of the morning, with the sun at a low angle above the horizon, the shadows become elongated. During the hours of the lunar landings, the shadows cast by the lunar modules would extend to many meters. Therefore, during the right time of day, these shadows should be visible to SELENE. yet no such shadows have been photographed by either Selene or any other unmanned craft. On his website, Phil Plait already has his excuse.
However, this is a very tricky observation and has to be timed just right, and the landscape itself may hide the shadow. Crater rims, mountains, and natural dips and bumps might prevent sunlight from hitting the lander until the sun is high in the sky, and that will shorten the shadows. Plus, try to convince the committee in charge of hotly contested and hugely oversubscribed telescopes to give you a night to try this, and see how they react. Good luck ever getting an observation again.
Yet, the Lunar Orbiter spacecrafts photographed the shadows cast by the unmanned Surveyor craft. This was even brought up on Sir Patrick Moore's Sky at Night episode, in which they discussed Apollo moon landing conspiracy theories.
Way back in the 60s, one of the lunar orbiters photographed Surveyor 1 sitting on the lunar surface.
Yes, indeed.
Now, we couldn't actually see Surveyor. What we saw was a bright point of light throwing a very, very definite shadow. Now, nobody at that time said, oh, this is a fraud, Surveyor isn't on the lunar surface. They accepted the interpretation.
So it seems, NASA made an effort to have Surveyor's shadow photographed, but no effort has ever been made to photograph the shadows of the manned vehicles. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. The only spacecraft to have ever photographed the LEM's shadow was Apollo itself.
Apollo 15 was flying a big new camera, panoramic bar camera, which was high resolution. Now, they turned the camera on the landing site of Apollo 15, and we have a picture derived from that camera. Now, you need interpretation, and you can see it here, that you can see the track of the lunar rover, you can see the effects of the continual movement of the astronauts, you can see the shadow being thrown by the lunar module, and so on. Now, it's not terribly clear, I admit, but it is evidence that they were there if you accept the interpretation.
That's wonderful independent verification, a photograph from the exact same mission that was proven to be faked. Why has no one taken the opportunity to confirm Apollo's sightings? Could it be, perhaps, there is nothing to find? Although Selene didn't photograph any of the Apollo equipment, the images it did obtain provided fodder for the propagandists. The Selene was equipped with a terrain camera with a resolution of 10 meters per pixel. After it scanned the Hadley Rill site, where Apollo 15 supposedly landed, Japanese scientists were able to produce a three-dimensional model of the terrain using Selene's stereo pair images. Using this computer graphic model, the Japanese were able to zoom in and view the lunar surface from any angle, including eye level. In May 2008, JAXA released this picture. Compare it with this image from Apollo 15. Clearly, the landscape features are virtually the same. Needless to say, the propagandists have jumped on this. At least 3 YouTube users have used Selene's pictures to prop up their arguments. They all beg the same question. How could NASA have accurately faked the lunar landscape before Selene took these pictures? The answer is simple. They already knew what the terrain looked like. Between the years of 1966 and 1967, NASA launched their lunar orbiters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These probes were specifically sent for the sole purpose of determining whether or not the moon's topography was safe for manned or unmanned probes to land on. To get this information, These probes orbited the Moon and photographed its surface using cameras with a resolution of 1 meter per pixel, a considerably sharper resolution than anything the Japanese could hope to photograph with Selene's 10 meter per pixel resolution. The lunar orbiters were by all means a crowning achievement in lunar exploration. For the first time, astronomers and scientists were seeing the Moon in a light never thought possible. For these space probes mapped 99% of the Moon's surface, including all 6 landing sites.